The swift and unexpected burial of Andy Griffith, a beloved actor and television icon, just 4 hours after his death, left many questioning the reasons behind such a quick farewell. In most cases, the passing of a public figure involves a longer period of preparation, funeral arrangements, notifying family and friends, and often a public memorial. However, Griffith's burial was executed with surprising speed, leaving little room for any public display of mourning. This unusual decision caught the attention of fans and the media, who speculated about the true cause of the haste. Was this a personal choice made by Griffith himself, or was there something more to it? Why was his final resting place kept so private, and why was the entire process so quick and seemingly seamless? As we dig deeper into the events leading up to his death, we uncover the true motives behind his rapid burial, exploring how personal wishes, legal matters, and a desire for privacy shaped the way one of America's most cherished stars was laid to rest. On the quiet morning of July 3, 2012, the world lost a true icon. Andy Griffith, the beloved star of The Andy Griffith Show and the legal drama Matlock, passed away peacefully at his longtime home on Roanoke Island in North Carolina. His death came suddenly and without warning, astonishing friends, fans, and the general public who had followed his career for decades. Later that same day, news of his passing was announced, but what truly surprised many was how quickly the process of laying him to rest took place. Within just 4.5 hours after his death, Griffith was buried in a small, unmarked grave on his private property. The burial was very private, attended only by close friends and family members, with no public notice or ceremony beforehand. There was no funeral procession, no large gathering, and no traditional memorial services that often accompany the passing of famous figures. Instead, the entire farewell was quiet, swift, and almost surreal in its simplicity. This stark contrast between Griffith's fame and the secrecy surrounding his burial led to a lot of questions and speculation. Fans and media wondered why such an admired man, someone who had entertained and touched millions, was given an almost anonymous departure. Some speculated whether his family wanted to protect his privacy and shield him from the media spotlight once more, or if there was some other reason behind the hurried, low-key funeral. The decision to bury him so quickly and without fanfare left many people feeling confused and curious. It seemed inconsistent with the public image of someone who had spent so many years bringing joy and comfort to audiences across the country. The secrecy and speed of the burial sparked discussions about personal wishes, privacy, and the sometimes contrasting nature of celebrities' public versus private lives. Fans still remember the day as one shrouded in mystery and quiet finality, marking the end of an era for many who grew up watching Griffith's endearing characters. After Andy Griffith passed away, the situation surrounding his death was very different from what usually happens after a celebrity dies. Normally, there is a waiting period of several days or even a week before the burial, giving family members time to travel, make arrangements, and plan memorial services. Public figures often have extended ceremonies, media coverage, and public tributes, so fans can say goodbye in some way. But in Griffith's case, his interment was done very quickly, just hours after his death. This fast decision left many people confused and unprepared, including fans, friends, and even some of his family. His daughter, Dixie Griffith, in particular, was deeply affected because she was not told in advance and only learned about the burial afterward. This lack of communication raised questions about what was happening behind the scenes and why the family chose to act so swiftly. Many wondered if the quick burial was meant to prevent media interference, maintain Andy Griffith's dignity, or protect his family from too much public attention. Some speculated that health issues or legal factors might have influenced the timing, or that Griffith himself had left specific instructions for such a private funeral. In fact, the decision to skip a traditional funeral service and to avoid marking his grave with a headstone or media coverage made it clear that this was meant to be a very private, personal farewell. For someone who had been so beloved by the public, this very private approach created a sense of loss, not just among fans but also within the community and family members who wanted a more usual way to remember him. The unusual manner of his departure sparked broader discussions about how we honor people who have shaped our culture, how privacy can be protected even in death, and what it means to respect a person's final wishes. This quick and silent farewell left many questions unanswered, emphasizing how different each person's end-of-life choices can be, and how these choices reflect their wishes and values. Since it is important to understand Andy Griffith's later life choices, especially his preference for privacy and simple ways of living, it is helpful to look back at his humble beginnings. Born on June 1, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, Griffith's early years were marked by hardship during the Great Depression. His family lived in a modest house without electricity or running water, and resources were limited. As a child, he even slept in dresser drawers that were used as cribs, showing how tough life was in those times. These early experiences taught him the importance of being thrifty, humble, and resilient, because those qualities were necessary to survive. Growing up in a small rural town, Griffith learned to value family, community, and self-reliance. In Mount Airy, people knew each other well, church was a major part of life, and honesty was highly valued. These core principles stayed with him throughout his life, shaping his acting as well as his personal choices. Even when he became famous nationally, he never forgot his roots. His later life reflected those values, as he was known for being private and modest. His funeral was simple and respectful because he believed that life's most special moments should not be grand or public, but quietly shared with loved ones. His private nature and preference for simplicity were all rooted in his rural upbringing and the lessons he learned growing up in Mount Airy. From a young age, Andy Griffith's journey into the performing arts started long before he appeared on television or in films. His parents, Carl and Geneva Griffith, were hardworking and supportive, encouraging his interest in music and performance. Growing up in a modest household, Andy was introduced to the world of music through church choirs and school plays, where he often sang and acted. His father worked as a carpenter, and his mother took care of their home, but both were very religious and attended Baptist church services regularly. It was in these church settings that Andy found his first inspiration for performing. During his teenage years, he discovered that he had a talent for storytelling. He would entertain his friends and churchgoers with humor and voice impressions, which made him popular among his peers. Recognizing his natural gifts, teachers and mentors encouraged him to seek formal training. He then attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he majored in music. There, he developed into a skilled singer and trombonist, but he also loved acting. He took part in various theatrical productions, blending his love for music and drama. His first taste of national recognition did not come from acting but from comedy. He wrote and performed humorous monologues, with his most famous being What It Was Football. This story was told from the point of view of a country preacher who accidentally stumbles into a football game, and it became very popular. The performance was recorded and went viral for its time, making Andy Griffith a well-known comedic voice across the country. This early success helped Americans see him as a relatable, honest, and down-to-earth person. It laid the foundation for the authentic, friendly image that he would carry throughout his career. These early artistic pursuits played a vital role in shaping his unique style, combining sincerity and humor, which earned him a special place in the hearts of millions of fans. Because Andy Griffith's defining moment came in 1960 with the creation of The Andy Griffith Show. It marked a turning point not only in his career but also in television history. The show was the vision of Sheldon Leonard, a veteran producer who believed Griffith was the perfect person to bring a new type of hero to TV screens. Unlike the tough, loud, and commanding characters often shown at the time, Griffith's sheriff Andy Taylor was gentle, calm, and wise. The idea was simple but innovative: a small-town sheriff who raised his son with kindness and understanding instead of using force or aggression to maintain order. The character drew heavily from Griffith's own personality, laid back, humorous, and morally upright. The show took place in the fictional town of Mayberry, which was designed to be a peaceful place where good sense and community mattered most. This contrast to the popular westerns and crime dramas of the late 1950s made the series refreshing and unique. Griffith's acting was subtle but effective, using small facial expressions and relaxed speech to show trustworthiness and morality. He avoided loud comedy, choosing instead to keep his character soft-spoken and gentle. The cast, including Don Knotts as Deputy Barney Fife, brought humor and warmth that balanced the moral lessons woven into each episode. Griffith had a lot of control over the show's direction, ensuring it stayed wholesome, family-friendly, and free from political views. Over time, the show grew beyond entertainment, teaching important lessons about patience, honesty, humility, and community spirit. Its creation was not just a career accomplishment, but also a reflection of Griffith's values and personality, making the series a timeless example of good storytelling. After considering the cultural impact of Sheriff Taylor, it becomes clear that Andy Griffith's portrayal of this character left a lasting mark on American society. During the original run of the Andy Griffith Show from 1960 to 1968, the program was immensely popular, attracting an average of 50 million viewers weekly. In a time of social change, political unrest, and rapid technological development, the show provided a comforting glimpse into simpler, more community-oriented times. Mayberry, the fictional town where Sheriff Taylor and the other characters lived, became a symbol of peace, kindness, and stability. The residents of Mayberry, though quirky, demonstrated a deep sense of community and respect for one another, reinforcing ideals that resonated with audiences across the country. Sheriff Taylor himself, played by Griffith, was more than a typical TV sheriff. He embodied qualities of patience, wisdom, and humility. He seldom raised his voice, and preferred to solve problems through understanding and calm reasoning rather than violence or strict punishment. This portrayal shaped how many Americans thought about justice, good parenting, and leadership. Even after the show ended, the reruns continued to reach new generations, teaching lessons about morality, ethics, and the importance of treating others with respect. Many public figures and educators have cited Griffith's sheriff as a model of compassionate authority, emphasizing fairness and empathy. Schools and community groups often reference the show's messages to promote core values. Decades later, the character remains a symbol of American nostalgia and a point of reference when discussing morality, leadership, and community. For Andy Griffith, playing Sheriff Taylor was more than acting. It was an opportunity to express his own deeply held values, which he carried with him from childhood through his life. Despite achieving nationwide stardom and becoming one of the most recognizable faces in American television history, Andy Griffith chose a life of quiet dignity over the trappings of fame. He never fully embraced the stereotypical Hollywood lifestyle. Instead of mingling with the elite at red carpet events or living in the spotlight, Griffith found solace in the simple things: his home on Roanoke Island in North Carolina, long walks near the shoreline, meaningful conversations with close friends, and time spent with family. He lived on a spacious property far removed from the buzz of Los Angeles, where he surrounded himself with nature, music, and personal reflection. His humility was not an act for the camera, it was part of his core character. Co-star Ron Howard, who played his son O.P. on The Andy Griffith Show, often spoke of Griffith as a real-life mentor, describing him as someone who led by example, calm, patient, and always generous with his wisdom. Griffith never sought excessive praise or attention, and he remained deeply connected to the values he portrayed on screen. Even when he returned to the public eye for interviews or special appearances, he carried himself with a sense of modesty that stood in stark contrast to many celebrities of his era. For him, fame was a byproduct of meaningful work, not a lifestyle to chase. In many ways, Andy Griffith became the embodiment of his own ideals, proving that one could achieve greatness while staying true to one's roots and remaining grounded in authenticity. Andy Griffith's artistic talents extended far beyond his iconic role as a television actor, showcasing him as a versatile performer with a deep love for both music and drama. His passion for the arts was evident long before his career in television took off. As a trained vocalist, Griffith had a special affinity for sacred music, folk ballads, and Southern hymns, genres that resonated deeply with his roots. This love for music stayed with him throughout his life, and reached a significant milestone in 1996, when he won a Grammy Award for Best Southern, Country, or Bluegrass Gospel Album for I Love to Tell the Story. 25 Timeless Hymns. The album, which featured Griffith's distinctive warm and earnest voice, was a collection of spiritual classics, many of which reflected his upbringing and personal beliefs. The sincerity of his voice, which conveyed deep emotion, was a testament not just to his vocal ability, but also to the faith and humility he had lived by. However, Griffith's artistic journey was not confined to music alone. He demonstrated immense range in his acting career, taking on both light-hearted and serious roles. His portrayal of a manipulative drifter turned media star and a face in the crowd displayed a darker, more complex side of his acting ability. This role was in stark contrast to his beloved portrayal of Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. Griffith's acting skills spanned far beyond television, as he also appeared in films like In the Heat of the Night and in several made-for-TV movies, each exploring deeper emotional themes and showcasing his talent for portraying complex characters. On stage, Griffith showed equal versatility, handling both comedic and dramatic roles with ease, using his powerful voice, impeccable timing, and strong stage presence to captivate audiences. Griffith was always striving to challenge himself, refusing to be typecast in any single role. His ability to evolve as an entertainer allowed him to continue offering fresh, genuine performances throughout his career. Through his music, film, and stage work, Andy Griffith redefined what it meant to be a well-rounded entertainer in America, leaving a legacy that transcended any one medium. Taking into account the information provided, Andy Griffith's entrepreneurial endeavors began in 1972 when he founded Griffith Enterprises. This company allowed him to gain greater control over the creative projects he was involved in, and also gave him a platform to support other talented individuals behind the scenes. He saw this move not just as a business opportunity, but as a way to express his vision for the entertainment industry. Griffith understood that true influence extended beyond acting or singing. It came from shaping the content and values within the industry itself. With his reputation already established in television and music, he used Griffith Enterprises to produce stories that reflected his beliefs, stories that emphasize character, family, justice, and meaningful human connection. The company became a place that supported projects which might not have otherwise received funding in a media world increasingly focused on commercial success. It also allowed Griffith to help writers, directors, and actors who shared his dedication to good storytelling instead of just spectacle and trendiness. Through this effort, he became more than just a performer. He became a curator of important stories. Behind the scenes, he was involved in production meetings, casting choices, and reviewing scripts. These actions showed his commitment not only to his own legacy, but also to nurturing a creative community rooted in quality and integrity. His entrepreneurial spirit was driven more by a desire to create meaningful content than by the pursuit of profit. By doing so, Griffith helped influence the industry to prioritize authenticity, values, and thoughtful storytelling, setting a tone for a more sincere approach to entertainment. Because of his later health challenges, Andy Griffith showed remarkable resilience and strength that many people could admire. In 1983, he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare nerve disorder that can be very serious and even life-threatening. This illness caused him to become temporarily paralyzed from the knees down, which was a difficult and painful experience. However, he did not give up. Instead, he worked hard through intensive therapy to regain his ability to walk. Despite feeling pain and frustration, he showed patience and determination, never losing hope. Later, he faced other health problems related to aging, such as high blood pressure and ongoing complications. In 2000, when he was 74, he underwent a quadruple heart bypass surgery, a major operation that many might find overwhelming. Soon after, he also had hip surgery to help stay mobile. Instead of retreating from the public or hiding his health struggles, Griffith kept working. He produced music, took part in interviews, and even appeared in reunion shows and retrospectives. He remained active in his community, always supporting arts projects and mentoring young performers. Throughout all these difficulties, he never sought sympathy or attention for his health. Instead, he focused on what mattered most to him: storytelling, music, and connecting with people. His endurance was a true reflection of his personal values, shaped by his rural background and strong faith. Even as his body changed and his health declined, Andy Griffith continued to be a performer, a guide to others, and an inspiration to many. His quiet strength and resilience were simple but powerful, showing the true character of a man who faced life's hardships without losing his integrity or his spirit. Certainly, here is the detailed text about Andy Griffith's private life philosophy. Andy Griffith's decision to be laid to rest in the utmost privacy was not an impulsive one. It was the natural culmination of a life rooted in modesty, faith, and a deep reverence for solitude. While many celebrities chase fame and surround themselves with luxury and attention, Griffith took a completely different path. After achieving tremendous success in television and film, he could have easily chosen to live in the glamorous hills of Los Angeles or among the social elite. Instead, he returned to Roanoke Island, a quiet, picturesque part of North Carolina where he could immerse himself in the natural beauty of the coastline and escape the pressures of stardom. There, he found peace walking along the beach, playing music in his home, and enjoying the company of a close-knit circle of neighbors and friends. Faith was also a guiding force in his life, influencing not only his personal choices but the gentle, moral voice that defined many of his most iconic roles. His spirituality emphasized humility and simplicity, two traits he embodied fully, both in public and private. Griffith's quiet lifestyle was never an act. He cherished privacy, not because he was hiding something, but because he believed that life's most sacred moments, love, grief, joy, and farewell, were not meant for public consumption. In his final years, he kept his world small and intentional, making choices that prioritize peace over publicity. His private burial was simply the final expression of a lifetime of values rooted in discretion, spiritual grounding, and a profound appreciation for the quieter aspects of life. After Andy Griffith's death, the way his burial was handled surprised many people, because it was so different from how most celebrities are remembered in their final moments. Instead of having a big public funeral or allowing a lot of media coverage, Griffith's arrangements were made with careful planning and a desire for privacy. He did not want his death to turn into a spectacle watched by millions through the media. Knowing how quickly and chaotically media attention can spread, he made sure that every aspect of his funeral was kept secret and organized to prevent any intrusion. Well before his passing, Griffith expressed his wishes clearly, showing his desire to avoid the chaos that often accompanies celebrity deaths. He directed law enforcement to block the roads leading to his property, making sure only invited guests could enter. He also requested a temporary no-fly zone over his home, preventing any news helicopters from filming the ceremony. These precautions were unusual but necessary to keep things private. Interestingly, even his adopted daughter Dixie was not allowed to attend, a decision that many understood was meant to protect his privacy, though some questioned it. His goal was to have a peaceful farewell with only those he trusted. Griffith's actions showed that he valued dignity and privacy more than media attention, choosing to leave this world surrounded by close loved ones, and without unnecessary publicity. This careful planning reflected his deep respect for his own final moments, and his wish for them to be free of disturbance, emphasizing how much he wanted a calm and private goodbye. Because Andy Griffith understood the importance of controlling how his life story was told, he planned his farewell with great care, much like a director carefully overseeing the final scene of a cherished film. He kept every detail private, managing the process with subtlety and emotional clarity that reflected his respect for personal dignity. Instead of a loud public display, he chose to have a small burial site with only a few trusted friends present, people who knew him well and shared his values. There were no celebrities, speeches, or media coverage at the funeral, preserving the quiet respect he wished to maintain. His decision to bury himself in an unmarked grave was intentional, symbolizing his belief that a lasting legacy isn't about monuments or headlines, but about the quiet impact he had on those around him throughout his life. Griffith rejected fame even at the end, leaving no clues for tourists or fans who might try to find his resting place. No photographs of a headstone were taken, and the funeral was a carefully controlled personal story that protected his dignity and privacy. This final act of discretion suited a man who spent his life shaping stories with character and message. It was a way for him to exit quietly, just as he had lived, without noise, ego, or distraction. His carefully planned farewell became the most memorable story he ever told, one that emphasized humility, peace, and staying true to oneself. Griffith's control over his departure showed his deep understanding that sometimes the most powerful stories are those told through silence and quiet strength. After Andy Griffith passed away, his family and close friends made sure his last wishes were respected. On July 3, 2012, around 11:30 a.m., just hours after he had died, Griffith was quietly laid to rest in a simple, unmarked grave on Roanoke Island. This burial took place beside his beloved home, in a peaceful spot surrounded by trees and far from busy roads. The setting was quiet and private, perfect for the farewell he envisioned. There were no cameras, no journalists, and no grand ceremonies. Instead, only a few trusted individuals gathered to say their goodbyes, listening to the gentle rustling of leaves and feeling the stillness that honored his life. By the time news of his death spread, Griffith was already buried, fulfilling his wish for secrecy and modesty. This unassuming burial reflected who he was as a person. Unlike many celebrities who have large public funerals, Griffith preferred privacy and simplicity. His life was not about fame or fame's trappings, but about meaningful relationships and the positive influence he had on others. His grave, though unmarked, became a symbol of humility and honesty, demonstrating that true legacy does not depend on monuments or media attention, but on the lasting impact a person makes on hearts and minds. His decision to keep everything low-key showed his genuine character, and his belief that a life well lived is measured by kindness and integrity. His final resting place reminds us all that modesty can be a powerful statement, and that sometimes the simplest act can leave the deepest mark. Although the suddenness of Andy Griffith's burial initially shocked many people, including his loyal fans, and even members of his own family, those closest to him gradually accepted and supported his decision. His daughter, Dixie Griffith, was notably absent from the funeral and later expressed her sadness about not being included. For her, and for many fans, the quick and secretive nature of the funeral felt surprising, and almost as if an important part of his life was closing too fast, without the chance for a proper farewell. Yet, over time, more details about Griffith's personal reasons for planning such a quiet burial came to light. Family members and longtime friends explained that the swift and private service was not because they were cold or hurried. Instead, it was a conscious choice based on his lifelong values. They said that Andy wanted to avoid making his death a media event, wanting the focus to be on peace and privacy, just like his life had been. What at first seemed like an act of exclusion became clearer as a final expression of his independence. His family learned to see that his wish for a quiet farewell reflected his strong belief in living and dying on his own terms. Though they mourned the absence of a traditional goodbye, they felt comforted, knowing his last wishes had been carefully honored. Over time, the simplicity and dignity of his burial became a source of pride for those who loved him, representing the quiet strength of a man who never sought attention, even at the end of his life. Certainly, here is the detailed text about Andy Griffith based on the subject, and summary provided. Despite being seen for decades as the personification of kindness and good morals, Andy Griffith's true personality was much more complicated. As the wise sheriff of Mayberry and the caring father to O.P., he seemed to represent the ideal of wholesomeness and honesty. People admired his warm voice, calm demeanor, and the way he brought comfort to his audience. However, behind this friendly image was a man with a challenging inner world. Over the years, stories and interviews revealed that Griffith could be intense and moody. Sometimes he felt anger and frustration just like anyone else. He struggled with personal demons, especially a long fight with alcohol that at times caused problems in his relationships and made him feel emotionally drained. His marriages, especially the first two, showed signs of tension and distance, which contrasted with the loving and peaceful character he played on screen. Friends and colleagues said he was very smart and emotionally aware, but they also noted his quick temper when things didn't go right. He held himself to very high standards, pushing himself hard and expecting the same from others. This trait inspired many to do their best, but it could also cause tension and disagreements. Over time, these deeper truths about Griffith did not diminish the respect people had for him. In fact, they added a more complete picture, showing that behind the charm and moral strength, he was a real person who faced struggles just like anyone else. He wrestled with his flaws and worked hard to improve himself, which made his kindness and virtues more genuine. His complex personality created a richer understanding of who he really was, and it made people admire him even more because they saw him as a human being, not just a TV hero. Griffith's life reminds us that even the most beloved figures have their struggles, and being honest about those struggles can bring us closer to understanding and respect. Certainly, Andy Griffith, widely loved for his warm and wholesome image on screen, was also a man who experienced moments of anger and vulnerability that many people did not know about until recent biography. Author Daniel DeVise revealed that Griffith's life was not only filled with the charm and kindness he showed publicly, but also with episodes of emotional turmoil. During distressing times, Griffith sometimes lashed out physically, punching walls or breaking windows when overwhelmed by stress or frustration. These acts were not signs of a violent nature, but rather reflections of a man carrying deep emotional burdens. Many believe his early life contributed to these struggles. Growing up in poverty, feeling isolated, and lacking emotional warmth as a child left scars that sometimes surfaced in difficult moments. As he grew older and gained fame, these internal struggles did not fade away. Instead, the pressures of maintaining a perfect image and handling the demands of his work added to his emotional stress. Griffith was known to be a perfectionist, especially during the filming of The Andy Griffith Show. He tightly controlled every aspect of his work, ensuring things appeared flawless on screen. This need for perfection, combined with the stress of fame, could lead to emotional breakdowns. However, after these moments of anger, Griffith often took time to reflect and felt remorse for his outbursts. These episodes show he was very aware of his volatile side and struggled to always keep it in check. They reveal a man who loved passionately and felt deeply, showing that even those who seem strongest on the surface have their own personal battles. Far from harming his reputation, these revelations brought a new understanding of Griffith, making him more relatable. It reminded fans and the world that everyone, no matter how beloved or comforting they seem, can have personal storms to fight. These insights into his life emphasize his vulnerability, showing that he was a man who endured hardships just like anyone else, and continued to work through them with honesty. When news of Andy Griffith's death became public, the outpouring of tributes was immediate, emotional, and far-reaching. From former co-stars to devoted fans across generations, millions took time to remember the man who had brought so much warmth and wisdom into their lives. Ron Howard, who had shared the screen with Griffith as a child, issued a heartfelt statement praising Griffith, not just as an actor, but as a mentor and father figure. He spoke of Andy's generosity, his patience on set, and his quiet encouragement that shaped Howard's own career. Don Knotts' daughter, Karen, also reflected on the deep friendship between her father and Griffith, calling their bond a rare and enduring connection that lasted their show ended. Across the country, fans lit candles, wrote tributes, and posted memories on forums and social media, describing how the Andy Griffith Show had brought peace into their homes during turbulent times. Even political leaders acknowledged his impact, citing his portrayal of Sheriff Taylor as a beacon of decency and American values. Despite the revelations of his personal struggles, the love people felt for Andy Griffith never wavered. His flaws only made his accomplishments feel more earned. The depth of the mourning revealed how profoundly he had touched people, not through spectacle or controversy, but through quiet, lasting influence. His work had shaped ideals, comforted families, and taught generations what it meant to live with compassion, humor, and moral clarity. In passing, as in life, Andy Griffith reminded the world that greatness lies not in perfection, but in sincerity. Immediately, you can see that Andy Griffith's influence on American culture is truly enduring and almost mythic in its significance. His most famous characters, Sheriff Andy Taylor and defense attorney Ben Matlock, have gone far beyond the television shows they appeared in, transforming into symbols of honesty, wisdom, and simple American values. Sheriff Taylor, with his soft voice, calm manner, and fair treatment of everyone, represented a kind of leadership based on kindness, patience, and understanding. His character showed viewers that fairness and compassion are the best ways to lead and care for others. On the other hand, Ben Matlock, with his southern manners and sharp mind, brought a different kind of heroism. He showed that justice can be pursued with intelligence, compassion, and strong principles. Even years after these shows first aired, both series are still shown in syndication and attract new viewers. Their popularity isn't only because of nostalgia, but because they embody universal values like respect, family, and moral clarity. Whether a child is watching Mayberry for the first time, or an older person is revisiting Matlock's courtroom cases, Griffith's performances still connect with people on a deep level. The characters he created felt real and familiar, like neighbors or friends. They weren't just characters for entertainment. They were lessons in honesty, humor, and humility. In today's world, which can sometimes seem filled with cynicism, the ongoing relevance of Griffith's work proves that kindness and integrity will always stay important. His legacy isn't frozen in the past. It continues to grow, adapt, and inspire new generations. People still find comfort and motivation in the stories he helped bring to life. Furthermore, Andy Griffith's decision to be buried privately reflects his preference for humility and simplicity, values he often conveyed through his work and personality. However, even without a public grave marker, his legacy is vividly preserved through the Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy, North Carolina. This museum acts as a powerful symbol of remembrance, celebrating not just his career, but also the community that shaped him. Inside, visitors find a treasure trove of memorabilia, including original scripts from his shows, vintage costumes worn by Griffith, rare photographs capturing his early days, and personal items from his private collection. These artifacts offer a personal look into his life and the journey of a man who rose from a small-town boy to a beloved television star. The museum also dedicates space to the Andy Griffith Show, highlighting the characters and stories that made Mayberry a household name. Fans of all ages can explore sections that showcase behind-the-scenes stories and insights that reveal the magic behind the show's enduring appeal. The museum serves as both an educational site and a place for community gathering, hosting events, lectures, and reenactments that keep Griffith's spirit alive. The town of Mount Airy actively celebrates Griffith's legacy through annual festivals, special attractions, and storytelling events, which attract visitors and fans eager to connect with the charm he brought into the world. Through these efforts, Griffith's cultural impact continues to grow, reminding everyone of his influence not through monuments or graves, but through the stories shared, lessons learned, and the laughter that echoes in the hearts of those inspired by his life and work. After a long career in acting that made him a well-loved figure, Andy Griffith chose a path that reflected his personal beliefs about fame and mortality. Instead of accepting the common practice of having a large, elaborate tomb that attracts crowds and turns a final resting place into a tourist spot, he decided to be buried in an unmarked grave. This grave was located on private land, far away from the public eye and busy cemeteries. His choice sent a clear message that he did not want his death to become part of the spectacle. Griffith believed that true remembrance did not come from expensive monuments or crowds gathering to pay their respects. Instead, it was found in the quiet acts of kindness, the characters he played, and the messages he shared through his music and work. He understood that a headstone would not add anything to his legacy, nor honor the values he had lived by throughout his life. His decision to reject the idea of a celebrity tomb showed humility and a desire for peace. Many fans initially wondered if they could visit a grave to feel closer to him, but over time, they learned to respect his wish for privacy. His final act was a reflection of the honest, sincere man behind the roles he portrayed, someone who believed in living simply, with dignity, and passing away on his own terms. His legacy continues, not through a stone marker, but through the memories of those he touched, emphasizing the importance of humility and authenticity in life and death. Since Andy Griffith chose a private burial, he demonstrated a deep understanding of the importance of personal wishes and emotional protection for his loved ones. By not having a public funeral or a marked grave, he helped his family avoid the stress that often comes with media attention and the curiosity of fans. This decision allowed them to grieve in peace and privacy, free from the disruptive gaze of the public or the press. His property on Roanoke Island, surrounded by trees, water, and natural beauty, became his final sanctuary where family and close friends could remember him quietly and with love. This peaceful setting was chosen purposefully to provide a calm space for reflection. The quiet nature of his burial also protected his legacy from unnecessary speculation and public scrutiny. It helped his family and future generations avoid the burdens of unwanted attention while still honoring his memory. This choice set an example for others in the public eye, showing that it is possible to have dignity, control, and grace at the end of life. His decision was not only about modesty but also about creating a safe space for mourning and remembrance. His unmarked grave became an invisible shield that kept his loved ones' grief private and their memories intact, closely held within their hearts rather than exposed to the world. Initially, Andy Griffith's decision to keep his final resting place private reveals a deep respect for his personal beliefs and a desire to distance himself from the often commercialized way many celebrities are memorialized today. Unlike other famous figures whose graves have become pilgrimage sites that attract thousands of visitors each year, Griffith's grave is intentionally hidden and inaccessible to the public. His resting place is located on his private property on Roanoke Island, and it remains unmarked to prevent any form of pilgrimage or media attention. This approach is a stark contrast to locations such as Elvis Presley's grave at Graceland or Jim Morrison's in Père Lachaise Cemetery, where fans pilgrimage seeking a tangible connection to their icons. Instead, Griffith wanted his memory to be preserved through his body of work, a legacy built on entertainment, inspiring values, and lessons. His desire was for fans and the public to remember him not by visiting a physical location, but through watching The Andy Griffith Show, listening to his gospel recordings, or viewing episodes of Matlock in peaceful solitude. His choice underscores a belief that true remembrance comes from the ongoing influence of one's contributions rather than the spectacle of death. By keeping his burial private, Griffith subtly shifted focus from the end of his life to the significance of his life's work, emphasizing humility, dignity, and the importance of keeping sacred moments free from commercialization or fanfare. This decision serves as a final reflection of his life values, promoting peace, simplicity, and respect for the privacy of his personal life, even in death. Through this act, Griffith left behind a clear message about the nature of true remembrance, one rooted in authentic legacy rather than spectacle or public display. In exploring Andy Griffith's life, one finds a striking duality that offers a deep insight into the nature of fame itself. On one hand, Griffith was widely known and loved as a symbol of wisdom, kindness, and moral clarity. He portrayed characters such as Sheriff Andy Taylor and Ben Matlock, who exuded trust and steadiness, often helping small communities and fighting for justice with calm authority. These roles created a persona that reflected stability, reliability, and warmth, making him a beloved figure across generations. Yet despite this warm, approachable public image, Griffith was a very different person in private. He cherished solitude and kept his inner world protected from the often intrusive demands of fame. Unlike many celebrities, he avoided interviews, tabloid stories, or any form of public self-promotion beyond his acting. He understood the pressures that came with being constantly in the spotlight, and was cautious to guard his emotional well-being. This discipline allowed him to remain emotionally reserved, preserving his sense of self even amid success. His private life was centered around his family, close friends, and his home in North Carolina, where he found peace away from the limelight. Griffith believed that even if a person has great talent, their true self should stay hidden from the public view, kept safe in a private space. He viewed his career as a gift to share stories, characters, and humor with the world, but maintained that his personal truth was for himself and those he loved. This careful division between his public persona and inner life was not a sign of contradiction, but a conscious choice that allowed him to stay grounded and authentic. Through his example, Griffith shows that one can dedicate oneself fully to their craft without losing their inner integrity or identity. His life reminds us that it is possible to give generously of oneself in public while protecting one's private world from the encroachments of fame. His story exemplifies how balance and discipline can sustain both a successful career and personal peace. Even in the world of animation and symbolic storytelling, Andy Griffith's image has continued to resonate, not as a caricature or exaggeration, but as a warm, grounding presence that evokes comfort, kindness, and clarity in an often chaotic world. Animated tributes and satirical nods to the Andy Griffith Show have appeared in various formats, from adult comedies to children's cartoons, always with a sense of reverence for the values his characters stood for. Whistling the show's iconic theme song or referencing the sleepy, idealized town of Mayberry in cartoons has become shorthand for moral nostalgia and simpler times. His screen persona has become emblematic of decency, a cultural symbol of the kind of wise, fatherly guidance that transcends generations. This symbolic use of Griffith stands in deliberate contrast to the animated portrayals of darker historical figures like Adolf Hitler, whose depictions are intentionally grotesque or disturbing, meant to highlight humanity's most destructive instincts. The contrast between these symbolic poles, Griffith representing serenity and virtue, Hitler representing chaos and evil, illustrates how society uses animation and art to create easily recognizable emotional anchors. Griffith is more than just a nostalgic icon in these moments. He becomes a visual shorthand for goodness itself. In an era of rapid change and moral ambiguity, his animated presence serves as a gentle reminder of the values we hope to preserve, and the kind of world many still yearn to return to. Since the beginning of animation and cartoons, they have served as a mirror to society's values and beliefs. Through simple drawings and exaggerated features, cartoons can show what a culture finds important or troubling. They can be funny and comforting, but they can also be used to criticize or question societal norms. In this light, the image of Andy Griffith, often portrayed as calm, moral, and fatherly, is used as a symbol of goodness and decency. His persona in television and film represented stability, kindness, and a sense of community. When his image or character traits appear in animated shows, they act as a cultural balm, offering viewers a sense of reassurance and moral grounding. His gentle wisdom and moral clarity stand in stark contrast to darker historical figures like Hitler or Stalin, who are often depicted as symbols of evil and chaos. These representations of good and evil in cartoons help society to understand and process complex ideas, making clear distinctions between right and wrong. They also serve as a reminder that, despite chaos or darkness, there are timeless values of kindness, honesty, and integrity. When modern creators parody or reference Griffith's gentle spirit in animation, it becomes more than just an homage. It transforms into a form of commentary on society's ongoing struggle with morality and humanity. His presence in animated satire emphasizes the importance of moral clarity, often grounding chaotic storylines and reminding audiences of a cultural ideal rooted in kindness and integrity. This use of Griffith's image allows viewers to reflect on the importance of dignity and goodness, especially in times of societal turmoil or historical reflection. It underscores how media acts as a tool to remember and understand history's darker periods while also offering hope and moral guidance. Through the comforting and symbolic lens of animation, Andy Griffith's legacy endures not only as a cherished figure, but as a moral compass that helps society navigate its complex history and present. His depiction in cartoons becomes a way for audiences to connect with the idea of human goodness and to affirm the enduring power of kindness in a world often troubled by conflict and chaos. When celebrities pass away, their burial choices often spark significant discussions about how the public and their fans should mourn and remember them. For many, visiting the gravesite of a beloved star offers a physical connection to their legacy. These sites, such as Elvis Presley's at Graceland or Marilyn Monroe's in Los Angeles, have turned into pilgrimage spots where fans gather to honor the memory of those who left an indelible mark on their lives. However, Andy Griffith took a different approach with his burial decision, one that deviated from the usual celebrity memorials. Instead of opting for a public monument, Griffith chose to forego a traditional gravesite altogether and was laid to rest in an unmarked plot in North Carolina. His decision not only safeguarded his privacy, but also redefined the manner in which a cultural icon could be remembered. Griffith's choice suggested that his legacy would live on not through public displays of mourning, but through the work he had done and the values he held dear. Rather than encouraging fans to gather around a physical marker, he asked them to remember him through his roles, his morals, and his quiet connection with nature. His choice sparked conversations about the right of families to grieve privately, even when the individual was a well-known public figure. It highlighted Griffith's preference for authenticity and his resistance to the commercialization of death. Even in his passing, Griffith's legacy wasn't meant to be encased in marble or surrounded by crowds. It was found in the stories he told, the joy he spread, and the ideals he lived by, proving that a true legacy is not defined by a marker, but by the impact one leaves on the hearts and minds of others. Because Andy Griffith is no longer with us, many people might think his impact has faded, but in reality, his influence continues strongly today. His values such as honesty, kindness, patience, and the quiet strength of decency still reach audiences of all ages. These qualities are shown through his work and are still appreciated in modern culture. His popular television show, The Andy Griffith Show, is still shown on TV across the country, and it gives people a chance to see a world based on kindness, humor, and strong morals. The Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy, North Carolina, keeps his memory alive by carefully displaying his life and work. This museum does not see him only as a figure of the past, but as someone whose lessons are still valuable. Every exhibit, and every time an old episode is played, reminds viewers of the importance of simple honesty and good character. Teachers, parents, and community leaders often use stories from his show to teach ideas about fairness, patience, and understanding. Even though Mayberry is a fictional town, the lessons learned there reflect real human truths that are always relevant. Griffith had a special talent for showing the complexities of life in a gentle way, making his work meaningful for people now and in the future. In a world full of noise and fast-changing technology, his legacy encourages everyone to take a moment, listen carefully, and lead with kindness and heart. Andy Griffith's shows continue to serve as beacons of moral clarity in a world that often feels confusing and fragmented. His characters never claimed to be perfect, but they always strove to do what was right, not because it was profitable or popular, but because it was good. Sheriff Andy Taylor, in particular, exemplified this ethic. He taught his son O.P. the value of telling the truth, the importance of patience, and the strength found in gentleness. These lessons weren't just for children. They resonated with adults who saw in him the kind of leader the world desperately needed: calm, consistent, and compassionate. Episodes of The Andy Griffith Show often revolved around simple misunderstandings, yet they offered profound insights into human behavior and morality. Whether confronting prejudice, fear, dishonesty, or pride, the show consistently reinforced the idea that character mattered more than status, and kindness was never out of fashion. That unwavering moral compass helped define an entire generation's understanding of right and wrong. And as those generations pass those lessons down, Griffith stories become part of a greater cultural inheritance, a reminder that clarity, goodness, and laughter still have a place in the world. After Andy Griffith's death in 2012, a deep sense of loss spread across the world. It was more than just the passing of a popular actor. It was the end of an era when television served a higher purpose. During that time, shows featuring Griffith and others aimed to teach core values, to inspire kindness, and to demonstrate that true heroes listen and lead with wisdom rather than strength or violence. Griffith's presence on screen and in life was calm, gentle, and full of heart, making it feel as though a family member or trusted friend had gone. His departure was quiet, but the silence that followed felt overwhelming, as if the nation was mourning the loss of a moral compass. For millions of viewers, Andy Griffith was a figure they turned to during good times and bad, offering comfort, laughter, and lessons about humility and community. Throughout a career that stretched over 50 years, he stayed true to his principles, never letting fame change his commitment to honest storytelling. His shows and movies made people feel seen and appreciated, reminding everyone that simple virtues like kindness and humility are powerful. His farewell was not marked by grand ceremonies, but by the echoes of his memorable lines and the warmth of shared memories in homes across the world. Even today, reruns of his work bring nostalgia and reaffirm the values he represented. Andy Griffith's legacy is more than his characters or catchphrases. It is a lasting example of meaningful art done with soul. He challenged us all to live honestly, lead kindly, and love quietly, leaving behind a blueprint for a life of integrity. For those who grew up with his wisdom, he remains a symbol of grace, always present in the simple moments that remind us to be better and to lead with kindness. Certainly, Andy Griffith's farewell to the world was unlike that of most celebrities. It lacked headlines, eulogies, and crowded vigils, yet it resonated with a rare kind of power, one that doesn't need amplification to be felt deeply. By choosing a simple, private burial devoid of spectacle, Griffith delivered a final message as meaningful as any line he ever spoke on screen: that life, when lived with quiet purpose and authenticity, speaks for itself. There were no elaborate memorials, no final performances, and no fanfare surrounding his passing, and that was exactly how he wanted it. His goodbye was a whisper, not a shout, but it echoed with significance. It reminded us that our legacy isn't defined by how loudly we exit, but by how honestly we live. Through decades of heartfelt storytelling, music, and gentle humor, Griffith built a legacy based on trust, dignity, and moral clarity. His choice to leave quietly was not an evasion of fame. It was the ultimate expression of control, peace, and personal truth. In a world hungry for attention, his silence spoke volumes. His final act honored his values better than any tribute could. It was humble, intentional, and deeply human. It was the kind of goodbye that didn't ask for attention, but left us with a lifetime of meaning to hold on to. While Andy Griffith may no longer walk among us, his presence continues to resonate deeply in the hearts and minds of people of all ages. His work, especially through The Andy Griffith Show, remains a source of laughter, comfort, and life lessons. Millions of viewers still tune in to watch episodes that have a gentle rhythm, offering an escape that feels timeless. Parents often share these episodes with their children, not just for entertainment, but to teach values like kindness, empathy, and personal responsibility. Schools, churches, and community centers frequently use clips and stories from his shows to illustrate ethical lessons, trusting in the meaningful messages Griffith conveyed through his characters. His influence extends beyond entertainment. Even modern legal dramas borrow from the structure and morals seen in the character of Matlock, reflecting Griffith's unique blend of wit, wisdom, and fairness. His legacy lives on in the cultural fabric of society, shaping attitudes and inspiring generations. From the porch of Mayberry to courtrooms and beyond, Griffith's characters offered more than just escapism. They offered hope and a model of integrity. His work set a high standard for television, showing it could be a platform not only for entertainment, but also for moral dialogue and character building. Through his talent and kindness, Griffith helped define a golden age of TV that combined humor, wisdom, and human values. His influence helped shape a generation's view of morality and decency, and his legacy continues to multiply through those who remember him and the lessons he shared. His contributions prove that greatness rooted in goodness is never lost, but endures, inspiring those who come after and enriching their lives with hope and guidance. Furthermore, the quick burial of Andy Griffith reveals how important it is to respect the wishes of the deceased and their family. Sometimes, people want to avoid long delays and public attention during their final arrangements, especially if they value privacy or are dealing with sensitive circumstances. In Griffith's case, reports suggest that he had prepared for his passing and expressed his desire for a swift burial to prevent unnecessary public mourning or media interference. Additionally, there may have been legal reasons or family considerations that prompted the quick process. The fact that his loved ones and close friends were able to organize everything efficiently shows their commitment to honoring his wishes. This event reminds us that behind the public image of a celebrity, there are personal, often private reasons that influence how their final journey is handled. As the story of his rapid burial comes to light, it helps us understand the importance of respecting personal choices and the complexity behind even simple acts of farewell. The story of Andy Griffith's burial ultimately teaches us to appreciate the quiet dignity he sought and the importance of privacy in moments of final goodbye.